Come one, come all, those short, those tall. There may be some clowning around, but get an earful, all in all. No need for waivers, no need for saviors. Don't be frightened, do not hide. Enter now and enjoy the ride. So step right up, those far and near. The attraction is set. It's Ear for Fear.
Hi, welcome to the Ear for Fear podcast. This is the podcast that talks about scary movies. More movies trying to be scary. I am Rick. I got Scott. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, good morning. You changed your intro.
I did. Yeah, I hadn't told you about that.
No.
I threw you off a little bit.
Yeah. I was expecting the other one. It was good.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, huh? A little evil kind of carnival circus thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, welcome back, man. I think it's been a little bit. I'm trying to think. What was the last one we did? Oh, did we do the stuff last time?
Yeah, that's right. The stuff, or there was another one that we did too. Yeah, the stuff.
I think we did the stuff, and I can't remember what the other movie was. It sucks when you get older.
Stuff was good.
Stuff was a good movie. I think we were talking about this in the episode. It was like I enjoyed it a lot more watching it again because it seemed I kind of understood what they were doing with it.
Yeah. If you get that, it's kind of like a satire. I think.
Yeah,
it really works a lot
and
better.
when I originally saw this when I was younger, it just went over my head. But I got it as I watched it again. But today, you and I are going to be doing 1985's Lifeforce. All right. 1985's Lifeforce, directed by Tobe Hooper. I don't know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Poltergeist, I think The Funhouse, maybe Invaders from Mars. I forgot he did Invaders from Mars, which is a movie I think we should do at some point.
Yeah, I've never seen anything other than this and Texas and
You've seen Poltergeist.
Poltergeist, yeah. Those are the only other movies I saw.
Funhouse is a cool little slasher from the early 80s. I thought you've seen Invaders from Mars, right?
I don't think so.
Really?
Mars.
It's a I think again mid 80s ish movie. It's actually kind of cool. It's kind of campy. Mm-hmm. And I always forget that he did it. Like I think I saw it at the theater and I really liked it. And I think it was on TV recently and I was watching it going, yeah, this kind of holds up still. It's fun, you know. I feel like the Invaders from Mars was. I think what this was trying to be. So when I was watching Lifeforce, should we do like a quick synopsis of it? You want me to do it?
Go for it. Yeah.
So it is going to sound kind of crazy. A race of space vampires arrive in London and infect the population that starts an apocalyptic descent into chaos. Let's go. Oh, the premise sounds really cool, right? It sounds kind of cool. I think it sounds cool. When I was reading the premise of this, because I remember when this came out in the 80s. I remember the trailer for it. 85, I would have been 13. I think it was 13. And ish. 13? Yeah, I don't think I'd turned 14 yet. I remember when it came out and it looked all right, but I just, like I've said before, I'm not into sci-fi. And it just didn't really resonate with me. So I never watched it. And then it just... I've never watched this thing from 85 until now. Like I remember it, but never just cared to go and just sit down and check it out. I don't know. And then you recommended it.
I mean, I didn't really recommend it.
You didn't? Oh,
I've never seen it.
I
was
thought
curious.
You had seen it. Oh,
so I kept because recently they just released Shout Factory like a new remaster.
Oh, was that what it was?
So I saw the previews, and I keep seeing that it was like a cult classic, and I saw that Patrick Stewart was in it.
Yeah,
from Stewart. Star Trek, and I was like, I have to see this. And then Tobe Hooper did it.
Yeah,
which I'm not sure now if he's just a one-hit wonder.
Well,
after starting to watch this movies and knowing that that Poltergeist was sort of
Steven Spielberg. Yeah, I think really it was kind of Ghost directed by Spielberg. Like, it really feels like a Spielberg movie.
Yeah, or at least all the decisions basically had been made by Spielberg, and he was just there to shoot the day-to-day stuff, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, I know it's a classic, but it's not one of my favorite horror movies.
It's so different from everything else that he's
really,
done. There,
yeah,
because it's more gritty and realistic, and got that handheld cinema verite like style to it.
For sure, I would say the Funhouse has a little bit of the grittiness you're talking about. That one is, again, I think is Funhouse 81. I don't know, 80 or 81. I think it's 81. And that's a cool little slasher. Not one of my favorite slashers. I know a lot of people love it. To me, I was a little bored with it. But whatever. So yeah, I mean, I guess you could be right. I think Invaders from Mars is a fun movie. It's not going to be like you'll watch it and go, yeah, that was cool, but it's going to blow you away.
Sure, yeah.
He's not going to be like. Someone's not going to put him in the same category as some of these other directors. It just isn't going to happen. Okay. It's not like we're going to get him confused with Spielberg or even like in the horror genre, John Carpenter or something. It's not going to happen. But he's got some.
There's no Cronenberg.
He's not Cronenberg. He's got some cool movies on his resume, but no. And this one, I went into it thinking, okay, I watched the trailer, right? And I'm like, okay, I remember the trailer for this, and it looks kind of cool. And then I sat down, and I'll be honest, 10 minutes in, I was bored. I was like seriously bored of this movie. I guess before we jump into it, full spoilers.
1, 2, spoilers coming for you.
So. Yeah, and I guess, okay, so this is the thing with me. This is what I noticed, okay, with sci-fi. I'm not a huge fan of sci-fi.
I don't know if I would call this sci-fi.
I think I would say the first 20 minutes is sci-fi, and then the rest of it is
the setup is definitely kind of a sci-fi.
And so what I've noticed with me personally, it's like either if we're going to categorize this as a sci-fi horror, okay, then you have like these great movies, right? Like Alien or Aliens. And then you got like, we did Event Horizon, which I just thought was terrible. It is. I thought it was. I don't know if you've listened to the episode. I was not.
I think Event Horizon is a mixed bag. I think there are some great things about it, and I think there are some stupid things about it. But there are things that I definitely appreciate about that film. Yeah. Like they put a lot of work into things like I do like the premise of that movie. I love the premise.
I like the
set design. I like it's like some of the things aren't as executed that well. And then also to know that so much footage was lost.
I did. They cut the hell out of the movie.
Yeah, he didn't have final control.
Because I thought it was like, and again, I have to go back to the episode. I thought it was over 3 hours or something. They cut it to 2 something. To me, it was a mess, and you had these great actors, and the actors were terrible. I thought Lawrence Fishburne was not good. Sam Neill was whatever.
I like Sam Neill's performance in that. Yeah, he's
yeah, dude. It for me, it didn't work. But I wonder if it's because I have this thing about sci-fi. Like I'm just not a huge fan of it, but I can appreciate the genre. And then if you mix it with horror, I just realize it's either really good or really bad for me. There's no happy medium, because I thought Event Horizon was just terrible, and I thought this movie was not good at all. Like there's some saving graces in this movie. I think the music, I think that's Henry Mancini? I think he scores. Is that
Pink Panther? Yeah.
But I thought the score worked for me. I thought some of the effects were decent. Like it wasn't mind blowing. Like
I really liked the practical effects and some of the optical effects. It was really cool, but then they don't look like real at all. Like if you're comparing this to something like The Thing or something like that, it definitely falls short.
Way short. Yeah.
And it feels like they could have just pushed it a little more, but some of the optical effects are really cool.
Yeah.
Especially like in the beginning when they first enter that chamber.
Oh, is this where they went to find the bats?
Where they find the bats, and then they go and then they find the three vampires who are still preserved in their little pods, and all around the room is just, I don't know what it is, just shiny glass things all around. It just looks really cool.
Yeah, I think there are elements, and this is probably a way bad like Flash Gordon. Like Flash Gordon is not a good movie, but it's a fun movie, especially if you realize it's almost not on. Like it's almost like they're making fun of themselves, you know. I think they went into Flash Gordon, especially the actors.
Or it's meant to be over the top.
Yeah, meant to be over the
when
top.
Queen does
Yeah.
the soundtrack,
Exactly.
then you're expecting
right. But there are some elements in Flash Gordon that I think are really cool.
Yeah.
And it reminded there was some scenes in here that reminded me at the beginning of a little Flash Gordon, like some of the set stuff. But I never felt that they were floating. It never felt to me that they were really floating. Like it almost seemed like
it's
they
1985.
were just, I know, but I felt like they could have did a better job of that.
Maybe they couldn't. I mean,
You think maybe
budgetary constraints?
I don't know. This felt to me like there was a lot going on, and that maybe he had a bigger budget than maybe some other movies.
For a canon film?
Yeah.
It's a really big budget.
Right?
It seems like they gave Tobe Hooper a lot of leeway to do whatever he wanted. Now, I don't know if that's the best thing that they could have done.
I don't think it was.
Because it is a mess kind of narratively. It does get really boring at times.
Yes. Because this was 2 hours and was this over 2 hours or 150? I can't remember. I felt it was. I think it was maybe an hour 50 minutes. I felt it was longer than that. Than that runtime.
Yeah.
Like I found myself going, oh my God. Like you could have cut 20 minutes at
It's only 101 minutes.
No, that's not right.
Yeah. Unless
can't be
you
right.
watch the international
I think
cut.
I watched the international
Well, that's
cut.
only 116 minutes. So either way, it's less than 2 hours.
Okay, then that's the one I watched.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one I watched. The internet, because I got it off of Tubi. It was free because I wasn't. Oh, because you bought it.
I could have chosen to watch the international cut.
Oh, so then that's what I watched. So then I got a lot more of the boringness because it was another.
It was kind of boring as it is,
was
but-
another 15 minutes of Wow. It just drug for me. Like I felt like you could have cut 20 minutes out of this movie. Like, why do people insist on making horror movies 2 hours or longer? Just give me 90 minutes, get in and out, and let's just move on.
Unless it's something like Aliens or
Sure,
Alien.
there are some exceptions. This is not.
If you're Ridley
exception.
Scott or James Cameron, you are the exception.
That's fine, and
Right,
that's okay.
yeah.
I'm okay with that because I know I'm going to get a solid outing, right?
Yeah.
And
Something that transcends the horror genre.
Do you feel though that this movie, like I'm watching it going, was it intentionally supposed to be bad? Like, did they do it on purpose? Like we talked about the stuff, right? The stuff was supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
Do you think that they were trying to make this serious like movie? Because if you think about it, right, space vampires, it sounds like a B movie. So, to me, it reminded me of like some bad movie from like say the 60s or 70s, probably 70s.
It reminded me a lot also of there's parts when they're kind of running through exposition, like the doctor on the phone.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of like a 50s sci-fi horror film where they're just like, it looks like this has happened and this has happened. They're just like dumping exposition on the audience, and it kind of reminded me of one of those like kind of 50s, kids staying up at night, watching.
That's what it reminded me of. But I don't know if it was intentional. I almost feel like it was an accident.
I feel like there's some things that were, but many things that weren't. And I feel like they just gave Tobe Hooper too much money and too much creative freedom, because I know it's based off a book, oddly enough, called Space Vampires.
Oh, yeah.
book is
It's called Space Vampires?
That
That in itself sounds like real campy.
I don't know how much it follows the book, but I just feel like because so much of the plot was a middle-aged man being chosen by a 20-year-old beautiful alien to be the one to to get it on and exchange their energies, and I just feel like that's like, okay, Toby, like he's writing, his fan. It seemed a little bit adolescent because I think something. I just don't think it was played for laughs as much. I just think a lot of it was like, so.
It was crazy because there was a lot of like erotic stuff happening. Like
It's kind of porny.
Yes.
A little bit.
Yes. I mean,
that chick was more naked than she was clothed in the entire movie.
Yes, I was thinking about this. Like when she was in the movie. Now I know there was a kind of a section of time through the movie that she wasn't even around. But literally every time she was in the movie, she was nude other than maybe a couple minutes.
Right.
And I was like, what the hell? And then I'm thinking, I'm like, they're showing a lot of stuff here, people. You can kind of fill in the blanks. And I'm like, how did this not become an X? And I think what they did was, I read was they purposely added shadows to hide some of other stuff because they got an R rating. But if they didn't hide some of the body parts in shadow shots, they were going to get an X rating.
They shadowed the ding dongs, so you couldn't see any. Because when they first enter the room, the chamber where the three are just kind of preserved, the woman's completely naked, and the two dudes are naked, but you cannot see anything below the equator.
Yeah.
So that's how they get that. So you can show, apparently, you can show whatever you want for a woman, and then get an R rating. But as long as if you show ding dong, that's it.
That's what I don't understand. I don't think they could get away with that today. I think
you can show a lot of stuff today to get an R rating.
But in a okay. So you think they could show more than that?
Dick and get an R rating still.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You think so?
I think
Like a theatrical release,
Yeah,
or a straight
definitely.
to
It's like, I mean, that's all very subjective. The MPAA is so subjective. It's a bunch of people sitting in a room and deciding. So if they feel at the end of the movie, even if there's a penis, that it's still like it matters up to them, like how they feel about it. So in Fight Club, there's a shot of a dick, there's a snippet, and but in certain other movies, there's male nudity. Definitely in dramas, there's male nudity.
I see. I guess I don't watch a lot of dramas because the movies I've watched, they usually just show the dude's ass. But
you
I guess
get away with
nowadays
plenty of ass.
Maybe there's like some sort of like cutoff.
You can have ass for days,
but no ding dongs.
You can have a little bit of ding dong. You got to be careful when you're.
I wonder what their criteria is. So like, oh, that's too much ding dong.
Right, yeah.
So that is, you're getting an NC-17.
If one of the dudes feels weird about it on the panel, then he's like, okay, that's X. Like, oh, I can see that. I can see butthole. Like, that's an X. Like, it just depends on how those guys feel. And I'm sure it's a bunch of dudes sitting around.
You think so?
Yeah. Or at least it was. Maybe it's
who knows now. Yeah, but I mean, she's butt naked through the whole movie just about, and then I don't know. I think there was a few saving graces. Because for the most part, I was just bored. I wasn't feeling it. Like, even though those practical effects weren't great, I still, what it reminded me of? Oh my God, I want to say it was Return of the Living Dead. Do you remember Return of the Living Dead when it had the corpse on the table, and it was like half of her torso and she was still alive and talking?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Is that the first one, or
Return of the Living Dead?
Okay.
Yeah, because they did they did multiple sequels, but the first part 1 and part 2 are decent. And I want to say it was the one in the morgue. And
I kind of picture,
and then she's like half of a corpse, and it's moving around, but she looks all old and shriveled up, and that's what some of these effects in this movie reminded me of.
Yeah,
because I mean, I if you think about it, I was thinking, okay, I was trying to find some like silver linings in this movie, and I'm like, with vampires, they need blood, right? That's the whole premise. They need blood to survive, and this is just, they're vampires, but you add the space aspect, and they suck the life out of you, or the energy out of you, and that's how they feed. But then how does it like, they suck the life out of someone, but then two hours later they're like back and they're hungry? Is it because now they're a vampire? Is that what you took from that? Because I got confused.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think the end result for was those three basically stealing the energies of everybody on the planet.
Everybody.
So it didn't really matter. Maybe that was just an offshoot or a side effect. If they stole the energy from one person, that person now was cursed and had to feed off, and if they didn't, they just turned into dust. But
kind of like other vampires would do, right? Like if you have a main vampire,
if you don't feed,
so you got the one, right, and then below that vampire you have other ones, and then they have to feed, and then if you kill off like the main vampire, you usually kill off the whole mess of them. But I mean, so you have her and then the two guys. Were they equally, or would you think she was kind of?
She seemed like the leader.
Yeah,
And it seemed like there was a bunch of them, and they were trying to replenish their group
the group.
in that room, because there was other ones. They were just all decayed and dead.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Because so the idea was on the space. What was it? Spaceship Churchill. Were they on some sort of random mission and they came across Halley's Comet, and then that's where they saw this.
I don't know if that's unclear, because the bat species is like a different thing. So they can. Where did they come from?
I don't. Well, they were these large,
Or
kind
were-
of like decomposed bats.
Yeah.
They looked all like just kind of shriveled up, and like if you touched them, they would just kind of disintegrate. Like,
Right.
I don't know. But then, where the hell did they come from versus the other people?
Yeah, I don't know if I missed some things, or if that's unclear, or if that's just a part of the failures of the narrative of this movie, which it just. I wish it was. I don't know. Maybe they're just leaving it up to your imagination whether or not what was going on, whether or not the ship did belong to these beings who went around to each planet, but
And just drain their life.
drain
Is that what they
energies,
did?
but what were the bats there? Were they pets? What were they? The bat people? Are they?
Were they sent down to like before they? But what caused them to shrivel up like that and just kind of decompose or die or whatever
I
it
guess
was?
it's
Like
just been there a long time.
like
For
a long
how
time until
Yeah.
someone discovered them.
Or they
and-
kept them around to feed themselves, or they kept those
Maybe.
things around in their ship to kind of live off the energy
It's possible, I guess.
so they could get to a different planet. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I guess
It's kind of
it
a-
would have been hard to explain that, right? Because no one's going to really know.
Yeah.
Because who knows how long they'd been there?
Right? Yeah.
But I mean, they get.
There's probably some sort of fan community out there that has
You think
that
so?
maybe
Yeah.
have read the book that know more
There you
about
go.
what's
Probably.
going on. I don't quite understand it, and maybe I'll have to delve into that next time I watch the movie.
Yeah, I'll be curious.
I wouldn't mind watching it again. I didn't. I felt like there were some silver linings about it, and most things
There
I
were
could
some.
usually find something, as long as it's not just a piece of shit movie driven for profit. And
Yeah.
I did like some of the choices. I like the premise so far,
Yeah.
as I think that it maybe failed to realize it all the way, but I did kind of like that idea.
I agree. Like I felt it was just a little. I don't know. It was kind of all over the place for me.
Yeah,
like
right.
I was bored at the beginning. Then I felt there was a good 30 minutes or so that I was engaged. Like I felt like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then they brought Unibrow guy back, and then. Dude, it's like could they not have tweezed his eyebrow? Like
Oh, the main guy?
The main guy. Like he had a
Right.
unibrow, and I'm like, really? Like this is 85. There's the
Steve
thing called
Railsback.
tweezers, you know.
Yeah.
And that was bothering me. Like I couldn't stop looking at his damn unibrow through the thing. And but I didn't think he was I wasn't engaged with his like acting. He did not. I'll tell you, the two guys I really liked I think it was Kane and is it Falada, which was like that doctor.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
felt he was kind of
That's the
over
one
the-
that reminded me of like a 50s like
Yes.
sci-fi.
But
yeah,
I think that's why I liked him so much, because he was just so over the top.
sure, yeah.
But it worked for me. And Kane was he was decent, like whatever he was, Inspector Kane or whatever he was. I don't know.
Colonel Kane?
Colonel Kane.
Yeah.
And you had Colonel Carlson and then Space Girl. And then Patrick Stewart
Space
was.
Girl.
I was like, well, I know Patrick Stewart is this. I'm like, when are we going to see him? And then we get I thought this was hilarious. Like we get a precursor to Patrick Stewart playing in X-Men because he's in a wheelchair. I thought it was hilarious.
Oh,
and
right,
then he's
yeah.
got his first on-screen kiss, which was with a guy.
Right.
I'm like, what the
Yeah,
hell?
they're getting pretty close on that one.
I think they actually kissed.
I don't.
That's
well,
where the
maybe,
weird-
Okay, so I saw the theatrical cut.
Okay, I'm
And they
telling you, in
didn't kiss.
this, the one I watched, they kissed.
Okay.
And it was a good kiss. Like like not good as in, hey, that was great. No, it was decent. It was a decent amount of time.
Interesting.
And I
Okay.
was like going, damn, there's a lot of, and so I wonder in the cut you watched if they got rid of a lot of the erotic stuff, because there was a lot in the cut you watched. Did they go into the nurse's like home, her apartment, and then start? They didn't do.
Oh, wait. Oh, where he starts beating her around and grabbing her, and the other guy's like, "Yeah, I could sit and watch." Like,
Yes.
that was in there. Yeah. Again, that's the stuff that, because I don't think it's playing for laughs. I think that's Toby Hooper and that kind of adolescent, like middle-aged mind, just wanting to, just like, I can do whatever I want. This is what I want to do.
I don't know. Surprised they allowed that, because that was.
I mean, it is the 80s.
It's the 80s, but I just felt with this. I don't know, man. I felt like it was a little too much for me. Like, there was a lot of it, and I was surprised. I was sitting there going, damn, how did they get away with this?
I thought she was going to be an integral part of the movie going forward.
Oh, the nurse?
Yeah.
Not at all. Like,
I know, that was it.
That was like it.
That was it.
Like, she seduces the guy in that, like, randomly in some parking lot, and then does whatever with him, just enough to suck some energy out of him. And then it's like just like a little fix, right? Like, not enough to kill, not enough to suck the whole, like, life force out of the individual.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if she did that, then there's like a track of, like, dead bodies, right? It's like, okay, now we can follow where the dead bodies are going.
But it doesn't lead anywhere. So that's what I was going to ask. So she hides her body. She's in a certain spot. So whenever they confront somebody, the lady, the nurse or whatever, and Patrick Stewart, none of them, she's not actually any of them. She's just kind of controlling them,
I guess.
So,
I thought she was kind of in them, but not in them.
But they're not. But so what's the point of her doing that? Why is she doing that?
I don't know.
There's so many things about this movie that either don't make sense or are just completely unclear. And so I like the beginning, I like the premise. I don't know if I like the end, but I just don't understand the point A to point B. Yeah. Basically, the entire plot of the middle of the movie is like, they're going here, they're doing this, they're going this. Yeah. Why? I know they're following a paper trail, but why is she leaving a paper trail? Why does she need? Why is she hiding? Like, and then all of a sudden, everybody in the streets is running. Did I miss something?
No, dude.
I was just from one to another, because
it became like, dude, it became so chaotic. And that's what bothered me too, because it went from vampires to zombies.
Right.
Like it looked like a zombie movie to me.
Yeah. And that was strange.
And that's not how vampires work, man. Look, I've seen enough. Look, I don't know personally, I don't know vampires, but I've seen enough friggin' like vampire movies to understand rules of a vampire movie. And this was weird.
Night of the Living Dead.
It became Night of the Living Dead, dude. I'm like, what the hell? Like, they were running around all like, oh, got to feed on you. And I'm like, and they're decomposing. I'm like, this makes no sense to me.
Yeah, and then so she's draining the life force or inhabiting certain people. That's the paper trail. But then on the other side, there's just, she's caused chaos and all these people are turning into zombies. So it's like they're not following their own rules for the movie, or they don't. Dude, they don't know what they're.
I have no idea. I honestly believe Toby Hooper got over his head, or he was just like, fuck the fucking studio. I'm gonna do this crazy ass movie, and let's see if they allow me to. Because this thing is, I felt it was just, it seemed larger than it really was. It seemed like I'm looking at stuff going, how did they do that? Like that had to cost a lot of money, man. Like, to do certain things. I was like, holy shit. Like, so I'd have been curious to look at the budget versus like what it would equate to these days.
What cost money?
Well, I felt there were, I thought there was some stuff that was happening because it was in London, right?
This is miniatures, man.
I don't think so, though, dude. You think so?
Yeah.
You think they're miniatures?
So like, there's parts where they're clearly on a set. And there's people running around, and then there's parts where it shows a city and there's explosions and stuff. And that was like all miniatures.
I don't think it was that.
And there's a part where there's a helicopter going over, and it was the city. And I was like, that's a miniature. Those are miniatures. Huh. So the guy that did the special effects is John Dykstra, and he
was specialized in
created. Well, with George Lucas in the original Star Wars, he created ILM.
Oh, okay.
Which is the start of ILM. Yeah. And then not soon after that, he butted heads with George Lucas and was kicked out.
Oh,
but he is like a pioneer in special effects.
So you think most of those are miniatures then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then I guess I take.
I'm not saying the movie wasn't expensive. I'm just saying I don't think it was that expensive.
As expensive as I think it was.
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, it
did have a $25 million budget.
That's a lot of money in 85.
That is a lot of money in 85.
See, I'm telling you, man. Like that's a
Maybe.
shit ton of money.
I just didn't see anything
There were
that
no
looked-
big actors in there.
No,
so it's
no.
not like the budget was going to
It
acting.
is Canon Films, though. I just feel like they...
But Canon did some big stuff. Like
Yeah.
I mean, they did some big stuff back in the 80s. You know, I remember like a lot of the action movies were Canon.
Sure, yeah.
You know, I can't think of any offhand, but
I just feel like
Was
Toby
Ro-
Hooper just embezzled this money.
did you
just-
think he just took it all?
Yeah. So where did the budget go?
I don't know.
I mean, there are some big names behind the scenes. You know, you have Henry Mancini, you have
Yeah.
John Dykstra, you have different things
yeah,
happening.
but I mean, back then, what is that payday going to look like for them? I don't know. I just $25 million is a shit ton of money.
maybe they pioneered a bunch of things. Like they just spent a bunch of money. Like
Stuff we just, when you see the film, you just don't think it.
yeah,
You know,
some of those optical shots, like especially
Could
inside
be.
of the spaceship, and look kind of neat.
Yeah,
I
I mean
mean,
it's possible. I mean some of the first 10, 15 minutes or so, maybe 20 of the space stuff. I mean, I didn't think it was like groundbreaking set
No,
design,
no.
but that stuff I know starts to add up.
You know, and when you give a director complete leeway, they can fucking blow through budgets, man.
True.
And
true.
it sounds, and from what I was reading, they kind of gave him pretty much creative control. And people can just blow through budgets because they can waste time. And when if you waste days, that's film that can just jump up the budget.
Well,
too.
I'm sure. I mean, you know, if this was initially almost 2 hours, I mean, that's a lot of, you know, and maybe for all we know that a lot of stuff, you know, landed on the floor that he initially shot and then they cut it.
Sure.
I mean, it's possible. I mean,
wonder who had final cut.
I don't know.
I know he wrote it or came up with the story, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
And yeah.
I just felt it, and I only watched it the other night for the first time. So I'm sure if I rewatched it, I might be able to pick out some of like the miniatures you're talking about. But there were some scenes I felt like it wasn't a miniature, and it could have cost a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Some really cool optical effects were where they were exchanging energies and things.
Yeah.
There was some really cool stuff going on there.
Yeah.
I appreciated
I
that.
did like some of that. Like I said, I liked some of the practical stuff when they started to when they sucked the energy out, and you could start to tell like the you know, their, let's call it, their faces or their bodies started to kind of like almost age or just, you know, decompose a little bit. I
There's
actually
like these little dried up
yeah,
like
I actually
people,
liked.
and then
I know it
their
sounds
eyes open up and their mouths, and they're just like, yeah.
Yeah.
That was cool.
But I think why I liked it is because it reminded me of like some of the zombie movies I've
Sure,
seen.
yeah, right.
And that's the thing. It's like you could have. I felt like you could have done some other things with the whole vampire thing. I like the idea of instead of I'm sucking the blood out of you, you know, so I can survive and feed.
Yeah.
I'm sucking the energy out of you, and I like that premise.
Sure.
I just felt like they could have done a better job of it and cut out 20 or 30 minutes. You know, do a better job of editing this, and I think you could have had more of a solid movie that made more sense. Maybe some sort of backstory on, for all we know, London. You know, London's people, NASA knew about this race, and maybe we could have got some sort of like backstory of it that would have filled in the gaps for me.
Yeah, he was supposed to like fill in the gaps when he had the like dream or something. He was able to
a little bit,
to, like, kind of figure out some things from her because of their energies that were exchanged, but not a lot came through.
And he so basically they hooked up. Like but I mean, I think she kind of mind fucked him on this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was her whole
She
point.
like made him like open her up on the ship. Yeah.
And then
Hopefully, people who are listening have seen the movie because we haven't really explained anything of what happened. So
no, not really, not really. I guess we could. I mean, let's do the cliff notes, right? They find this spaceship. Here are the vampires, prehistoric like bats. They bring those humans. They think they're humans onto the ship. Literally the entire crew dies on the ship, right? Except for whatever his name was he Colonel Carlson?
Yeah,
he took he basically tried to did he burn the ship up and whatever was left, thinking he'd kill them, and then he ejected. They find him, and then
they find him after they find the ship. They find the shuttle all burnt up, and then the bodies are still preserved, and they take them, and which starts this whole thing because they bring them down and
bring
they
them
start
down to
studying
London, and then they
with
start
no
to,
quarantine
no,
procedures.
not at all. I think she's literally butt naked in this room, and there's a guy that's some guard that's looking over her, and he goes to like, I don't know what he was gonna do. I have a feeling what I think he was gonna do, and then she sucks making out or something. She sucks the life out of him.
The one thing I loved about this, which I noticed immediately, and then I saw it later on in the movie. So there's a part. So when that there is no quarantine procedures at all, right? So they bring these beings from space down to Earth, and they put them in a lab, and they put them on slabs, and they're naked. And they're behind glass, but there's no locks. And so that guard who's drawn to her, he just walks through this door. But the door, it doesn't seal behind him. It does this thing, like where it just doesn't have a hinge at all. It just kind of, it's like a little revolving door.
Yeah,
it's like there's no procedures at all for containing anything. He just walks through the door, goes back and forth. There's no sealing in anything. And then later on in the movie, I was like, well, they didn't pay attention to that. And then I see one of the other guys come through. It's when the other two aliens wake up, and then they throw grenades at them and they destroy them.
Oh my god, they shoot him up.
Right.
They shoot him up, and they throw the grenade.
And then so the doctor and the Kane, they get wind of this, and they go down there and they open one of the doors and they see all the destruction. But then that door behind them, I think it's that part, it's just like floating. There's nothing seals. They just have no concept of like containing anything that there may be. I don't know. It just
it didn't feel too.
It goes along with the mindset of the movie. It's just like whatever. Like I'm not really thinking about it too much. Yeah. I want space vampires. I want a dude who's about my age, who's chosen by this beautiful girl half his age, and at the end they're embracing naked and
pretty much, yeah, That I didn't do. At no time did I feel where they had brought these vampires and had them on the whatever in these rooms. I never got the impression that it was some sort of lab. It felt like an office building.
Right, yeah.
And they just threw some things in there, and because when the one guy is watching on the camera and he sees the guard and he starts to see something happen, he runs downstairs and he goes through like 10 different office doors
right,
to get to this thing. I'm like, this makes no sense to me.
And there's the army people. There's like 5 people that work in that entire building. There's like 3 guards and like one guy, like one scientist guy. Yeah. There's hardly anybody working there.
It doesn't make any sense at all. Like there should have.
That's why it's not. That's why it doesn't feel like a sci-fi movie to me. So sci-fi, like I know it's sci-fi horror, but sci-fi movies generally are world building. Something is sci-fi, like Alien.
Yeah.
You build an entire world that's believable for this. And then you have a story within that world. You know, you've set up a future, and you set up this is what humans are doing, and they find this. That's kind of what the sci-fi element comes in. This one is just there's a little bit like where they find it, but it's basically just used as a plot device because there's no science in the rest of this movie. They're not using anything.
Maybe at the end, I think there's a little bit like I think they have this spaceship where they're sucking. Oh my god! Like
the whole idea is for the ship, right, to suck the souls of everybody on Earth.
Yeah, well, at least yes.
And there's a sky beam, which is like pre MCU sky beams. I don't know if you noticed, but for the last like 10 years, there's been a sky beam in every fucking superhero film. At the end of the film, something always turns into a goddamn sky beam. And so it was funny to kind of see that, but way before like any of that stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, so the entire time the space girl it seemed like she was just nearby in some sort of church or something. Space girl. I think that's what they call her, Space Girl. That's what her name is, Space Girl. They don't even give her a name.
Yeah, it would have been ominous to give her some sort of title like she's this. Her name is this. She's
absolutely
ancient. You know, so like halfway through, when he has a dream, you find out that they are these beings who there's a group of them and they go to planets and they destroy the planets by
Yeah.
sucking the life energy, but it would have been more ominous to kind of, show that they did have like titles and names and
Dude, I felt it was a disservice, especially to her. Like, I mean, because she's in this movie a lot. Now, mind you, naked most of it, but give her a title, give her something.
Yeah.
Like there was
Yeah,
barely any dialogue. I read that she didn't even speak English at the time when she was cast.
oh yeah,
And so, and then so I think she started to slowly learn English during the filming of this movie. So who knows, like from start to finish, she had no English, and at the end, she had whatever English she probably learned on set. And but Space Girl, that's what you give her. Like, I just.
that actress was definitely exploited and
Oh,
just
for sure,
used.
man.
Well, there's a couple of reasons why she was used, and that's it.
Yeah. Yes, pretty much, man. Like I was texting you this yesterday because, and I was like, I'm not going to complain. She's gorgeous. She's a gorgeous woman, and this totally spanks of mid 80s because there was a lot of that. They did that a lot with horror movies in the 80s where women were just more so objects, right? They were there to show their
You
stuff.
had to have that part in the movie
Yeah.
where someone gets undressed. Or
Absolutely,
something,
man. Especially in slashers.
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay, we're casting 6 girls or 6 women.
There's gonna be a pillow fight.
There's gonna be a pillow fight. Yeah, 5 of you are gonna get naked. Maybe the final girl doesn't show anything, but that's what they did. They did that in the late 70s. Hell, dude, to mid 80s, especially in all the slashers. Slashers had certain elements. Like, this made a good slasher.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a ton of nudity. You're going to have a ton of nudity.
Right. It's a formula.
There's a formula to
put
it.
asses in the
but
seat.
I felt this didn't work.
No.
Like, this nudity in this movie did not work at all.
Because it's not that. That's the main villain character. You needed somebody who has. Well, she didn't speak English, and I think she could have had a presence, and if she had known the language, and she looked like she could have been a decent actress. She had a lot of films after this.
Yeah.
But they really only hired her for one reason.
Yeah.
And that was it. But you needed like that villain character to have something. Something more ominous, some dialogue, something that happened there.
I never felt, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? I was never frightened of her, scared of her. I never felt like dread when I saw her. It's hard to feel that, especially for a vampire villain, when they're nude. The whole movie, literally.
Yeah.
You gave her some clothes at the end of the movie for a second, and then you immediately took them away because there was a scene where they're all getting like joined and they're kissing and making out, and then they get beamed up. And I was like, literally, I gave her a shirt for like 2 seconds of the movie.
Right.
You can't, I don't know, man. This was a friggin' mess for me.
If I didn't know anything, and I don't know anything about the filmmakers, but I would surmise that this entire movie was about a middle-aged man who, in their life, was tempted, or at least in their mind, tempted by the babysitter or something like
you
that.
better be right,
Some
man.
young girl, and so they wrote it into the movie. And at the end, they decided to self-sacrifice themselves, but they was tempted the entire movie and felt like they were special and chosen by a girl half their age. That's what it seems like to me. And I don't know anything about the filmmakers. I just get this like adolescent like idea from it.
You could be absolutely on the money with that, man.
But I like the special effects.
Special effects were cool, man. Music I thought was cool. I mean, there are some. I don't want to completely crap on this movie, even though I really could. There are some. I think
also there's some silver linings.
There are some silver linings.
That's
There
every
are
movie.
there are some things in here that I thought are pretty good, and I think we've talked about them. Like, it's not a complete waste of time. Like, I've seen movies that are a complete waste of time. This isn't. Like, I would not go recommend this to someone.
I would. Movies
You're
like
more
this,
tolerant than I am.
stuff like this it's worth seeing. It definitely it paints a picture. They're definitely worth your time, to think about this kind of stuff.
I mean, I don't regret that we watched it.
I kind of regret buying it, but I don't regret watching it.
If I bought it, I'd be quite pissed right now.
But I did. It goes into the collection, and it's part of the collection.
That's
There
true.
you go.
And I know you'll revisit it at some point. You'll
will.
watch it again.
I'll watch the extended version or whatever.
Yeah, I'd be curious because I that's what I watched.
If I can get something more out of it.
Maybe, or you'll just get way more bored and have
Right.
more things to complain about.
I'll sell it back to Amoeba, whatever.
I'm trying to think, man. I mean, I know we kind of went all over the place on this one. I'm trying to think. Anything that we kind of left out? I don't know. Anything that we like didn't touch on that we should like bring up?
No. No.
Like, I feel like this movie could be redone and be like
I feel like that's a premise that has been done before in different shows, in different sci-fi shows. There's always something that.
well, you watch a lot more sci-fi than me.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of a premise that's probably been done on every single show series that is a sci-fi. It's an idea that's definitely there. That's low hanging.
maybe not the vampire aspect of it, but
something that
similar
feeds off of.
That's
Not as like on the nose apparent like space vampires, but is vampiric and parasitic in that nature. There's a lot of that kind of stuff.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're not as porny and not as
and erotic and crazy. Just this one was But anyways, that's Lifeforce, 1985, Toby Hooper.
Check it out.
Scott says check it out. Me, I'm like, don't waste your time with
Watch
this.
everything. Watch everything.
Watch everything. No,
I mean,
that is not true. You should not watch everything.
As long as
There's
it's not
a lot
completely
of bad.
void of any artistic merit, I'd say watch it.
There's a lot of bad media
But that's good.
out there.
Bad is great to watch because then you can dissect it, get your mind thinking. As long as we've still spent an hour 45 minutes talking about this.
we have.
We would never talk about it maybe Fast and the Furious, but we would never talk about the Shazam movie or fucking Black Adam or something for that long. Like I wouldn't never
Probably
have
not.
that much to say about that kind of stuff.
I have not seen Black Adam, and I have not seen the second Shazam. Second one?
I don't want to pick on those specifically. I'm just saying that there's less
I know
there
you
for
ha-
these
yeah.
big commercial things than
Those are boring to
when
talk
you
about
have-
for me. I don't. I
you have
wouldn't
something
even.
like this that you could kind of peer into the mind of the filmmakers and what the hell they were trying to do.
Agreed. I will say, like, good or bad, whether this movie was
They
good or
tried
bad.
some different
They
things.
tried some
That's
different
fun.
stuff, and there was stuff that we could absolutely talk about because we have for 45 minutes.
That's the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah.
They were, because of the special effects started coming around, or optical
Yeah.
effects started getting good looking. They threw shit at the wall, like
Yeah, they
especially
did.
in the 80s, right?
Oh,
the
for
90s
sure.
was a little more like we kind of know what works or what didn't work, so we're still throwing stuff out there, but it's more stuff that we know works in a better way. But
Yeah.
man, in the 80s, it was just fucking like
Oh,
throwing darts.
absolutely.
And it was all kinds of crazy ideas. Kids movies were going nuts, like
Yeah.
horror movies, sci-fi films. It was all over the place. Not to mention the low budget stuff that was going, action movies, just any premise
yeah.
you can imagine. It's this, but it's this. It's Die Hard, but it's this, or it's
yeah.
Commando, it's this.
Oh, I mean,
just-
because really, like, I think the best 10 years of action was the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, man.
But
I
even
mean, the
like
best
horror stuff too. It's
for sure.
It's all
Horror
in the
was
80s.
it really is.
They're just
dude.
throwing stuff out there. If something worked, they either made 20 different imitations of it, and some were fun and some were stupid,
Yeah.
or it pushed them to do something else that was kind of, it's just like, it's just spread out like roots. It's just fucking
Yeah.
all over the place. And I love that about the 80s. And there's so many movies like Cannon did that
Yeah.
were made for not even just American audiences, but to play overseas. And so, like,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
still so many ideas and things that were done.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. And you recommended that one movie, a couple, The Hidden, I had never seen.
Yeah, The
And that's
Hidden.
that's another thing.
Oh my
or
God,
what's the one with Dolph Lundgren?
I Come in Peace. Yeah, you had never seen those.
No, and that was fantastic. I
Right?
mean, it's not there are things it's like not a great ending, but it's
Sure.
like such a weird fucking premise.
It is, and
alien
yeah.
drug dealers,
Right?
and an
Fucking
alien
cool.
like DA. It's
Yeah.
like they come to Earth. It's like what the
Yeah.
But that's what I love about this stuff. So
Yeah.
whether good or bad, it's like they tried something different. They did something weird. there's meat there. There's things
There is.
It's
There
like
is.
I miss that kind of stuff.
What I know is I have a certain taste, right? And I may like something and you hate it and vice versa. And that's okay. That's what's great about it, right? I could say here, and I'm not going to recommend this to someone, but I know there are people that I know will watch this and like this, or
Sure.
have watched it and liked it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And just because I wouldn't watch it again or recommend it, it doesn't mean don't go see it. For sure, go see it. If anything we've talked about intrigues you, go watch it.
Yeah.
And if you hadn't seen it, we've spoiled it for you. But I mean, give it a shot. I mean, so. Yeah, that's Lifeforce.
That's Lifeforce.
That's Lifeforce, man. That's life.
That's life.
Well, thanks for coming out, man. I appreciate it. If we don't have anything else, I guess that's
Okay.
That's it, man. Yeah.
do it.
Everyone, take care. You listened all the way to the end. We appreciate that. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Ear for Fear Podcast, Twitter at Ear for Fear, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Ear for Fear Podcast. You can also check out our website, earforfear.com. There we list news and events. We're available on all the main platforms, so make sure you tell a friend. We hope you come back and get an earful.